Hey everyone! So the title of this video should serve as a content warning. Yes, I will be talking about sexual assault. Specifically, the recent allegations against Alex Bez, the founder of Amazing Vegan Outreach. First, I want to share my intentions for making this video. I contemplated whether or not it was appropriate for me to comment on this, but Vegan Gains posted a video, which I wholly anticipated, and since I'm seeing such extreme responses coming from both sides, I wanted to offer a more nuanced perspective. I recommend reading Roxy's post and watching Alex's response video, as well as the official statement put out by the Save movement, where the allegations were first reported and investigated, because I won't be discussing all the details. This is a really emotionally charged subject, so please just hear me out and watch this video till the end before commenting. When it comes to sexual assault, expressing neutrality can be really harmful to the victim, whoever you believe the victim is here. It's not my intention to take a position of neutrality, but to analyze the situation objectively. To clarify, neutrality and objectivity are two different things. Neutrality is staying out of it and refusing to share your opinion on the matter. Objectivity is looking at the facts and hearing out both sides, and then coming to a conclusion based on reason and evidence. I hate that Trump just ruined objectivity with his both sides tweet because I cringe whenever I say it, but it's true that we should consider both sides. After reviewing the evidence and thinking about this a lot, and talking to several friends, one of whom used to canvass for a sexual assault crisis center, I've come to the conclusion that the situation is not black and white. I believe Alex is guilty of sexual assault, but I have mixed feelings about how the situation was handled. To provide some context, a couple months ago, an animal rights activist named Adriana posted a public post accusing another animal rights activist, William Burkhart, of sexual assault and rape. Her story was pretty disturbing, but what was even more disturbing was Vegan Gains' response, where he defends William and mocks Adriana endlessly, perpetuating harmful myths about sexual assault. My friend, the Tofu Goddess, made two excellent response videos, which I'll link below. A few days ago, I saw that Adriana shared Roxy's post on Facebook, alleging that Alex had sexually assaulted her. I was an internet acquaintance with Alex, nothing more than that, but we had interacted with each other and I really respected the work he was doing, so much so that I was donating $5 a month on Patreon. But of course my inclination is to believe the accuser, so I did. And by believe, I mean I didn't just assume she was lying. Fast forward and Alex releases a 30-minute long response video titled Addressing False Accusations of Sexual Assault. He presents evidence, including text messages and voicemails, that counter several of the claims that she made in her post, showing that there was embellishment on her part. Many are rightfully pointing out that countering these claims doesn't absolve him of guilt because prior consensual sex is not relevant. But I think Alex has a right to speak to each specific claim. Alex is now suing for defamation of character. As I said before, I'm inclined to believe victims when they come out with their stories, but I'm also open to evidence and hearing what the accused person has to say. Apparently, having an open mind to what the accused person may have to say makes me a rape apologist. Full stop. This kind of black and white thinking is toxic and unhelpful, in my opinion. I think it's unfair to dismiss all of this evidence Alex has provided and berate people for expressing any level of sympathy for him. But at the same time, I think it's unfair to fervently defend him, given that he admitted to touching her even after she had shifted away, and putting her hand on his dick while sharing a bed with another person. This is the part of his response that I had a problem with. He failed to acknowledge any wrongdoing on his part. He failed to apologize for making her feel uncomfortable. I'm very confused because he didn't explain what his aim was here. Like, why are you trying to initiate sex in a room full of people? And why are so many people brushing this off as a non-issue? I'm frustrated that people don't see how this behavior falls under the category of sexual assault. She shifted away and covered parts of her body, which indicate disinterest, and this is not an appropriate setting to initiate sex. A similar thing happened to me, like several years ago. I was camping with a couple and their friend, and we were all sharing a tent. The couple assumed we were asleep and just started having sex right next to us. This turned on the friend, apparently, because he started touching my leg, and I felt so uncomfortable that I just pretended to be asleep. Eventually, I kind of shifted away, turning my body, and then he kept freaking doing it, and as his hand is like moving closer and closer up my thigh, I just slapped it away, and he got the message and stopped. But this whole situation was just so awkward. Like, first of all, why are y'all having sex right next to us? And secondly, dude, stop freaking touching me. I'm not trying to have an orgy. Like, what is your aim here?
Even if you think I am that into you and I want you real bad, just don't reach for that inner thigh, man. Don't do it. And I'm not saying don't initiate touch. I'm just saying go for something a little more kosher than the inner thigh at first, okay? Go for a shoulder, go for an elbow, go for a wrist. See if I'm flinching from your touch, if I'm welcoming it, if I'm reciprocating. Am I really teaching people game right now?
It's unfortunate that some guys have to have their hand physically shoved away to get the message. Like, we try to give you all these subtle cues, but you ignore them. If I were a dude and a girl slapped my hand away, I would be so mortified. I would be apologizing profusely, like, I'm so sorry, I violated your boundaries, that was not cool of me. If a girl has to shove you off of her or give a strong verbal no, you really suck at reading body language. This is why we need better sex education about consent. All these memes that are like, feminists having sex, can I kiss you? Can I touch you here? Can I move my hand here? Are so freaking dumb. Like, we just want you to understand body language and read a room. Don't try to initiate sex when other people are in the room. That's the part that just blows my mind. Like, even if she was down for it, the person sharing the bed with you did not consent to y'all getting all sexy right next to them. They could be pretending to be asleep because they feel so uncomfortable. Having said all that, I'm really starting to question the strategy of blasting people like this on social media. If someone had come out with a worse allegation, then maybe it would be worth it to share your story because it shows a pattern of behavior and helps support the other victim. But personally, I don't think the punishment fits the crime here. Is getting banned from the organization not enough? After hearing both accounts of what happened, I don't see him as a serious threat to women. A dangerous person would persist even after hearing a verbal no. I think it would benefit the Me Too movement if we had a little bit more leniency in deciding who deserves to get dragged like this. My initial reaction to Roxy's post was to cancel my Patreon membership because, ew, what the fuck, dude? But while I was watching Alex's video, I could sympathize with him to a certain extent, given that parts of her story were clearly embellished. I was kind of expecting a half-hearted apology at the end, given that Roxy had said that all she wanted was a public apology. But he didn't give any type of apology or acknowledgement of wrongdoing, so I'm not eager to jump back on Patreon or donate to his legal defense fund. I hope you can see that I'm not defending his actions, but I think some of the character assassination is a bit harsh. Can't we acknowledge that good people do bad things? Do we all have to jump on the outrage bandwagon and be like, men like this belong in the trash? Get out and stay out, you piece of shit. Like, y'all are stressing me out. If we can have sympathy for slaughterhouse workers and dairy farmers because they're just people who are trying to make ends meet and were influenced by the society they grew up in, why can't we have sympathy for imperfect men who were influenced by the patriarchal society they grew up in? If we can acknowledge that we should be patient, kind, and understanding of non-vegans so that we can help them understand the error in their ways, shouldn't we do the same for men? If our goal is to change behavior and attitudes about sexual assault, then I don't think public shaming and ostracizing people is the most effective approach. Branding someone who is explicitly accused of sexual assault a rapist, and anyone who shows an ounce of sympathy for them a rape apologist, fuels the fire of sexist idiots. It makes them feel victimized and validated in their denial. And that's unfortunately what I'm seeing a lot of online right now. Like, can we not? There will always be people who think the Me Too movement is mostly unwarranted hysteria, but can we stop giving them ammo? Again, if the aim is to educate people about consent, I'm not sure exposing people like this helps us achieve that end. I can imagine that calling in cases like this is a lot more effective than calling out. People are saying, she's so brave, women are so brave to come forward with their stories. And I can agree that in some cases women feel unsafe confronting their abuser out of fear of them reacting violently, and posting publicly serves to protect other women. But in this particular case, Alex is not a violent person. Violence meaning behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone. He's certainly shown a pattern of behaving inappropriately towards women, but he hasn't threatened anyone with violence or acted in a way that would suggest he has a propensity for physical violence. It's difficult to confront your abuser regardless, but here's my concern. It's considered an act of bravery to blast someone on social media because you have to deal with all the backlash and potential legal repercussions. But to me, bravery is having a difficult conversation and being honest with the person who hurt you. Maybe this conversation is in person the next day, or maybe it's over text months and months later because it can take a while to process what happened. But I think conversations like this allow for healing, whereas blasting someone inflicts harm, and whether or not you believe that harm was justified or deserved, it can still prolong the healing process. Considering action was already taken by the organization, I think sharing this story in a way normalizes and glorifies revenge. And vengeance is not bravery. To quote an article in Psychology Today, revenge can masquerade as justice, but it frequently ends up perverting it. Moving forward, I think we should introduce the concept of restorative justice to the Me Too movement. A restorative justice program aims to get offenders to take responsibility for their actions, to understand the harm they have caused, to give them an opportunity to redeem themselves, and to discourage them from causing further harm. For victims, its goal is to give them an active role in the process and to reduce feelings of anxiety and powerlessness. Restorative justice is founded on an alternative theory to the traditional methods of justice, which often focus on retribution. Academic assessment of restorative justice is positive. Most studies suggest that it makes offenders less likely to reoffend. A 2007 study also found that it had the highest rate of victim satisfaction and offender accountability of any method of justice. So basically, we should focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment, and use principles of psychology that allow offenders to put down their defenses and reflect on what they did wrong, and give them a chance to redeem themselves. Shaming increases defensiveness. Name-calling increases defensiveness. Rather than branding someone as a sexual abuser, we could say this person has sexually abused someone. That way you're attacking the action, not their character.
This is what I'll call cancel culture trope 3, essentialism. Essentialism is when we go from criticizing a person's actions to criticizing the person themselves. We're not just saying they did bad things, we're saying they're a bad person. And that's what takes us from James Charles tried to trick straight men to James Charles is a sexual predator. So here we're targeting James himself, not just his actions, but the type of person he is, a sexual predator.
We can't just let ourselves be blinded by emotion. The feminists who support vigilante justice via trial by social media minimize the impact that public shaming has on a person and their career. Saying they brought it all on themselves is not entirely true. On the other hand, people like Vegan Gains minimize the suffering of sexual assault victims by failing to recognize more mild forms of sexual assault as sexual assault. In a recent video, I discussed the backlash from sexual assault allegations surrounding Lawrence Krauss, a prominent figure in the new atheist movement. I stand by what I said for the most part, but at one point I said, insisting that we need to make clear distinctions between sexual misconduct and rape is patronizing to the victims here because these women aren't stupid. They understand the difference between bad flirting and rape. I've changed my tune a bit because unfortunately I've seen quite a few people failing to make these distinctions. People are calling Alex a rapist when the accuser herself never claimed she was raped. This is madness. By these people's ridiculous standards, I've been raped. Rape is any non-consensual penetration. Regardless of severity, rape is rape. But sexual assault is not rape. Rape is a form of sexual assault, just like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. In conclusion, rape culture, which normalizes sexual assault and mild forms of rape, is a huge problem in our society. But cancel culture is also a huge problem. We should address both of these problems with nuance. Thank you so much for watching. This is a tough issue to discuss, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Let me know what you think in the comments. Alright, see ya. Cute boy! Are you gonna lie down in your bed and not touch my camera?
I'm gonna come puke.
You're gonna come puke?
Yeah.
Lord.
Yo, how when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me nah eat no fish, nah no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them say that I'm a vegan man. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me nah eat no fish, nah no meat now.